So we are live?
Yeah.
Yes, we are live and I've started the recording also.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and very well welcome to our webinar today. That discussion will be focused on averting water bankruptcy, global water supply risk, and countermeasures. And today we have 4 exceptional voices from around the world that will help us to understand this crisis of water and what we can be done about it. So I will start to introduce Mr. Eric Solomon, that is a green diplomat, a business negotiator, and a renowned inspirational speaker. He has served Norway Minister of International Development and Minister of the Environment, also head of OECD, and also under the Secretary General of United Nations and Executive Director of UNEP. And today he is the President of the Belt and Road Green Development Initiative, Senior Advisor at the World Resource Institute, and Board Member of the International Hydropower Association. Very well, welcome. Now we move forward from the international policy and green to the science. I hope Norma is here or not.
Not yet.
No, but I will introduce her. So Norma Patricia Munoz Sevilla is a marine biologist who had lead or participate in 59 research projects on covering marine resource, cost of development, water resource, marine pollution. She's a scientific coordinator for the Mexics of the Observatory of Sea and Coast and member of consortium of institution of marine research for the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea. And today she serves as the president of the Climate Change Council of the Presidency of Republic of Mexico. And now we move also forward with the third person. It's a Professor Manfred Stock. It's a physician who has dedicated his career to understanding the impact of climate change on our planet systems. He is leading contributor to the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, one of the world's most respected climate science institutions, where he served as senior advisor for regional sustainable strategy on climate and global change impacts. Manfred, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
And finally, one of my good friends and long friend it's Vinod Mishra from India. He brings 20 years of hands-on experience in water and sanitation across India, one of the world's most water-stressed nations. He has worked with India Ministry of Jal Shakti across 45 districts under the National Water Program linked to SDG 6. And now he is the country manager of UNOPS, India, and he implements projects from water, supply, sanitation, circular economy. Vinod, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna. It's my pleasure.
You're welcome. So we have 4 speakers from global diplomacy to field of implementation, from climate science to coastal ecosystem. So to you, Thomas.
Okay, thank you for doing the introductions, Anna, and welcome everybody to this webinar on one of the most critical existential risks humanity is facing, and one that is connected to so many other issues, for primarily, though, I would say, food security, which is my own personal expertise area, one of them anyway. I'm going to try and set the scene first. I will share my screen. Okay, yeah, is that, oops, hold on, yeah, that should be it. Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so as our point of departure, I would like to give you a few highlights from the Global Water Bankruptcy report that was produced recently by the Institute for Water, Environment and Health at the UN University in Canada. Now, okay, so basically what they're saying that across many regions, water systems are under unprecedented pressure as rivers, lakes, and wetlands are degrading, groundwater is being depleted, and glaciers are retreating. And of course, with climate change, evaporation rates increase and droughts as well, though occasionally we also have unprecedented floods. Meanwhile, demand is rising and competition over water by diverse sectors is growing, and that reaches all the way from the obvious, which is agriculture, to things such as hydropower. Is something that Eric will have quite a bit to say about, and an AI data center, something that Anna's done written an article for us about recently. So there's a structural imbalance between dwindling supply and rising demand, and this has led to an irreversible condition that the authors of this report refer to as water bankruptcy. So we are no longer talking about a crisis, let alone water stress, but water bankruptcy. The difference is that water stress is just temporary uh, imbalance between supply and demand. A crisis is more something driven by external shocks, such as the drought and maybe an El Nino, something like that. But what we have now is a long-term state of over-extraction that has led to a degrading of aquifers and river and ecosystems. And basically, they believe it's going to be very, very difficult to reverse. Why? Largely, it's been on the demand side. You can see that water consumptions in the last 100 years has grown about eightfold, not least because the amount of land under cultivation has grown massively, and of course the human population. So this is just showing a little bit of the distribution of water risk. That's sort of a composite of different water risks, and you can see it's sort of Africa, India, the Middle East, Central Asia, parts of Central America and Southern America that are most affected. Also, my own country, Australia. You see that in those same countries where water risk is high, that the amount of water that is used for, or the proportion that's used for agriculture is very high. So in other words, people in these countries are hard up against it because they really need all the water they can find for growing food. But we should be under no illusion that these kinds of problems are not affecting the global north. This is a lake in Texas, Lake Corpus Christi, which in the span of 4 years shrunk massively and devastated the surrounding agriculture, and which is mainly sugar and citrus. So yeah, and so it's not a problem of the global south. Water scarcity and hunger correlate extremely strongly, as you can see. It's again the same kind of pattern. Some outliers, though, you can see that, for example, Australia doesn't have a hunger problem because even though we overstressing our water resources, such as the river system of the Murray-Darling, which is our biggest river system, that food is actually 75% for export. So it's a somewhat different situation. Nevertheless, though, it also affects everybody else, because if one major producer of grain, like Australia, drops out or has reduced productivity, everyone is affected. Not least, this water scarcity is leading to an absolutely massive 20-fold increase in water conflicts since 2010. That's an enormous increase. And if you look at the clustering of those conflicts and see, for example, I don't know if can you see my mouse moving there, yeah? that around the Himalayan region, there's a lot of water conflict there. And this is also increasingly between nation states. There's a bit of a dam building race going on in that part of the world. Bangladesh is building the new system of dams called the Padma Barrage, a vast project that's supposed to help the drought-prone Southwest. Meanwhile, China's already tapped into the Mekong upstream and also now building a huge hydropower dam on the upper Brahmaputra. And meanwhile, India's treaty governing water sharing of the Ganges River with Bangladesh expires at the end of this year. And India has also threatened to tap into the upper Indus River, which is, of course, the lifeline of Pakistan. So there is, a lot of conflict potential there. We have a situation where the glaciers are melting in the Himalayas and stream flows are eventually going to really be reduced. And of course, there's been a lot of water drawn from groundwater reserves, and they are being diminished. And big factor of that is that Asia, of course, has a very strong reliance on rice, and rice is very water hungry. Okay. And of course, there's the other aspect to SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. It's also about drinking water supplies and access to proper sanitation services. And again, it's a similar pattern, though a little bit, some divergences, but overall quite similar. Okay, so that's all from me, just to set the scene. And I'd like to begin with asking Eric some questions from his vast experience. Eric, you've been watching, no doubt, the development of the global water crisis or post-crisis over many years. And do you think we've reached a point of bankruptcy? How serious do you think the problem is?
Look, thank you so much, Thomas, and I think your report is very, very valuable. I don't want to struggle about the words. I don't think that's most important. What's most important is that you put the water crisis or water issues at the front and center of global development. That's exactly where they deserve to be. Water is the one substance we cannot do without. It's much more important to the world than, say, oil, even if there is a lot more attention to oil. Humans can live, we know from hunger strikes and other cases that humans can live about 70 days without food. We can live very, very shortly without water. So it's the most important of all substances. I was just in the Qinghai province of China, where China has now established a new gigantic national park. It's as big as England or Uganda, much bigger than Nepal, just to make the comparison. But it's as the source of three of the most important rivers of the world, the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, and the Mekong River. And these rivers are, of course, not just waterways, they are the core of civilization. There would have been no Chinese civilization without the Yellow River. It was the taming of the Yellow River which created the Chinese civilization. And if you move to the Mekong, which ends up in Cambodia and Thailand and Vietnam, there would have been no Cambodia or Vietnam as we know it without the Mekong River. So rivers and water are central to civilizations and central to human life. Let me touch upon some of the issues which will come up. First, water is front and center for climate change. People tend to speak about climate change as a matter of temperature. No, it's a matter of water. It's extreme weather events, whether too much water, flooding, or too little water, droughts. It's the potential, which was mentioned here, of the melting of the rivers of the Himalayas, in which case Ganga, within the worst of circumstances, be a seasonal river, just in the monsoon season, but not an all-year river. That would have dramatic, catastrophic consequences for hundreds of millions of people. So let's not speak as if climate change is about temperature. If your temperature in, say, Delhi is 50 degrees, which is the climax, even if it increases to 52, is very bad. But the most important is the indirect relationship through water. And water is, of course, not just a problem, it's also the remedy. Most people living in the hot part of the world still do not have air conditioning. Well, how can you then survive with extreme weather, extreme heat? Water. Water being available everywhere. And that's what say Indian authorities or Indian municipalities do in extreme heat situation, but also what they do in the United States, where state of Arizona has developed heat officers with these aim. So that's the first. Second, we need to restore the global river and water ecosystems. China is now restoring the Yangtze River, which is one of the biggest river systems in the world. Seems the results so far are splendid. But let's go to a place where it's already done, Zhejiang province, just south of Shanghai. That's the #1 example in the world as to how you can improve water ecosystems. Back in the days, just 10 years ago, the rivers of Zhejiang were nicknamed soya sauce rivers because they were black and brown like soya sauce, not because they tasted well. And now they're completely clean. You can go for a swim. Most of it you can simply go down, drink. There's any number of frogs and butterflies and birds and fish coming back. So it shows how in very, very short period of time, you can turn around a very, very bad situation into a positive green ecosystem. And what Mother Earth has a fantastic ability to repair itself if we stop the wrong interventions and provide the right intervention. So anyone who say it takes too much time to restore river ecosystems, please go to Zhejiang and get the inspiration. Thirdly, we need to use water much more wisely. We overuse in many cases. I visited Lake Urmia in Iran. At the worst, it was reduced to 10% of the surface, like say the Aral Sea in the former Soviet Union or now Central Asia, because the water was overused for cotton and other agricultural products. But again, there are remedies when the Iranians starting to distribute water much more wisely, not just overflooding the agricultural land, but targeting the plants so that the plants and the farmers got revenue, but without overuse of the water. They got water back in the lake, so at least 50%. When I visited, it was back to 50% of the surface. It's not perfect, but much better than the past. Two more issues. Water has a fantastic capacity to store energy. I think we will not see, maybe we will see some massive hydroelectrical power dams developed in China and maybe some other parts of the world, but mainly water will be storing of energy. Take you to the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. In Andhra Pradesh, Greenco, a middle-sized Indian company, has established the largest combined solar, wind, and hydro facility in the world. Works like this in daytime when there is plenty of sun in Andhra Pradesh. You use the sun to uplift the water in the reservoir. There's no river there, no traditional hydro dam, just a lower reservoir and a higher reservoir in nature. And you uplift the water from the lower to the higher reservoir, and then you release the water at night. This is a human-made but nature-based battery, and this plant is not small and sweet. It's not a thing which a small NGO can do. This is 6 gigawatt. It's as big as the functioning grid in Nigeria, or as big as the total grid in Sri Lanka, the neighboring nation of India. So this is large, and India will make Greenco will make a new one this year in the state of Madhya Pradesh. For those of you who know India, and they will make 5 of them by 2030, and Adani, another Indian group, will make another 5. Well, maybe they will be a little slower. I mean, maybe they will not be as speedy as this, but the direction is set, and water in India will play a very, very key role as a battery for the drastic expansion of solar and wind. So if you look to this, hydropower, restoration of river ecosystems, using water more wisely, and the impact on climate change, water is the central or one central topic for world politics. And finally, we need more water mediation, more water peace mediation, because water has a potential for conflicts. It's not directly leading to conflicts, always human agency, warlords, presidents, generals who create conflicts, but water can be a source of conflict. In Darfur, in Sudan, at the peak of the conflict there, well, northern Arab tribes, they had to, because of climate change, they lost water for the cattle and for the sheep. What did they do? Well, they took the sheep into the already cultivated land for African permanent population. Well, surprise, surprise, the African permanent population didn't like this. They didn't want the sheep for someone else to come into their land, and there was a conflict caused by the lack of water. These kind of conflicts must be mediated. But that applies even maybe more to potential conflicts between nations. There's been a lot of concern in Egypt and Sudan about the so-called Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. It's the largest hydropower dam in Ethiopia. In Africa. I tend to believe that the view of Egypt is a bit hyped, because it's not used for agriculture in Ethiopia, just for hydropower, and you cannot steal the water by hydropower. But it has been a very tense situation between Egypt and Ethiopia over this dam. Euphrates, Tigris, you have similar situation between Iraq and Turkey. And for sure, there's a lot of concern in India, Bangladesh, and other nations about the enormous plans for hydropower in China. That will be a 75 gigawatt hydropower construction in the Chinese state or Chinese province of Tibet. Is enormous, and there are concerns from the downriver nations about this. Again, as long as it's hydropower and not agriculture, may not be a big problem, but these concerns need to be mediated and discussed so that people can relax and sort
Eric,
them out in peace.
if I may,
Thank you so much.
If I may just follow up a little bit there, I'd
please.
love to hear a little bit more from you, considering your positioning with the Belt and Road Initiative in China, about those conflicts with Bangladesh and also potentially India over the Himalayan watershed. And what is the state of diplomacy? They also with the continental Southeast Asian nations on the Mekong. We have all these problems of environmental flows in the Mekong being too weak to prevent saltwater incursion into that very important Mekong Delta, which is one of the world's biggest rice producing areas. So what's the state of the diplomacy there? And are there direct talks, negotiations? What would be the rational way to proceed?
First of all, everything depends on everything. So the fact that the relationship between China and India was at a very low point in 2020, it's now drastically improving. That will make all this much, much more easy to solve, because when there are good political contacts, you will have also better scientific contacts, better contacts at every level. So it will help dramatically. And I think the most important is transparency. There must be complete openness about the plans, because then, say, downriver nations can know exactly what will happen, what they can expect. And of course, as I see it, hydropower plants normally don't really affect dramatically upon the flows downriver, because there may be some intermediate period when you fill up the dam, but after that, of course, the water need to flow. If you use it for agriculture, like in Aral or Lake Urmia in Iran, as I said, that's something completely different, because then their water disappear from the downriver nations. But the diplomacy, open contact, and transparency, so that people can be completely sure what will happen, that's the recipe for solving this in a peaceful manner.
Yes, that's right. I think also, the rational approach, and I'm speaking here as a scientist purely, would be to direct the water to the most fertile areas where you get the best yield, no matter where that is. But for that to be palatable to all parties, you'd have to have real strong agreements about how that food then is also shared or traded. So
if you take the China, India as an example, of course, there is relatively limited agriculture in Tibet because of the very high altitude, the very limited population, and the very, very harsh natural conditions. So the main use of the water for the agriculture will be downriver in India and Bangladesh. But again, transparency and discussions and contact is the way to solve the issues.
And generally, Eric, just one question, a technical question, because of your, you're also the head of hydropower, the Global Hydropower Organization. And to what extent are the dams for hydropower also dams for irrigation? Are they usually dual use, or how is that relationship?
I don't think they're usually dual use between hydropower and irrigation. It's dual use between hydropower and flood control and drought control in a river, because you want a steady flow of water in a river, not extreme droughts or extreme flooding, and you can use it for that purpose. I mean, say the enormous Chinese dams in the Yangtze River and the Three Gorges have this dual purpose of hydropower and flood control, but they are not used in any major way for agriculture.
Okay. All right. Well, I would like to now move on to Vinod, who's worked for decades in India on sanitation, but also water supply issues. And Vinod, India is one of those places I mentioned before as really critically at risk from water shortages. And I must say, I have memories of visiting India in the early 80s. I'm betraying my age here, but and watching people draw water with oxen that were moved around in a circle, moving a water wheel, with clay pots that brought the water up. And then now, of course, it's all electrical pumps and by the millions pumping up water as if there was no tomorrow. Would you just like to characterize a little bit of the extent of the crisis and how it is felt by people and how it's affecting people's lives?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, if you see the globally, the fresh water for the drinking purposes and even for irrigation, the totally 3 to 4% is available of the fresh water availability in the, globally. And within 3 to 4%, because others are the sea, ocean, so that's useless for the irrigation, for the drinking purposes. But mostly the fresh water we are using for drinking purposes, for the agriculture, and for the industry, all. So if you see the percentage, 75 to 80%, the water going in the agriculture sector through canal, through rivers, and from the groundwater, and 10 to 15% in the industry. So for drinking purposes, it's a very limited 7 to 8 to 9% is available. So we'll have to manage within that only. So if you think about the water security, it has 3 dimensions. First is the availability of the water, and availability of water, for drinking purposes or maybe agriculture. It's a river, it's okay. River water is available through canal and even some areas in the pond for the agriculture purposes. For drinking purposes, we cannot use the river water directly without treatment, because that's highly pollution. Even in India, in the Brahmaputra, in the Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, you can see any river, north to south, east to west. So every reservoir and river is highly polluted. So we cannot use directly river water, surface water for the drinking purposes. So they are actually taking the groundwater, but groundwater is depleting very, very, very fastly because the withdrawal is high for agriculture, for drinking purposes. So the major challenge on the water is the availability of the water. that's shrinking day by day because of the impact of the climate change and the over withdrawal for agriculture and for other purposes. So we will have to think how to go for the source sustainability, because if you not increase the water in the source, in the groundwater, we cannot sustain the water supply schemes and the system for the drinking purposes. So availability is the major question. Second is access, universal access and equity. Because if you see the last miles, it's very difficult to get the fresh water and the clean water. So we will have to work on the system so that improvement in the system, delivery system, from the top level, from the national to state and under district, and even the grassroots level, villages level. So without strengthening the system, we cannot deliver the water and provide the water to the last mile, most unprivileged people. So that is the availability and the equity and universal access to the fresh water and the drinking water is the second challenge. And the third challenge is the quality. Quality of water is the big challenge. The entire Ganga basin, if you see from the Himalayas to the Bangladesh and the West Bengal in India, the entire region from Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, all states, highly arsenic contamination is around the Ganga basin and then even the Brahmaputra basin. So fluoride, arsenic is a highly polluted. The pollution has come up in the groundwater. So how can we manage the chemical contamination from the water? And the bacteriological contamination is because of the lack of the proper sanitation and disposal of the human excreta. So that is the also biggest problem, that creating the bacteriological contamination in the water. So overall, bacteriological and chemical contamination. So contamination and pollution is the one more biggest problem in water security. Without managing the water quality and ensuring the water quality, we cannot provide the fresh drinking water to the population the way it's increasing in India and even the entire South Asia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. So we'll have to work on the to develop some system to manage the population and availability and access, equity and access to the water. In India, I'm working on the Jal Jeevan Mission. It's a flagship program of the Prime Minister of India, and he's trying to provide every household tap water connection. But in 5 years, it's a big challenge to provide the tap water connection to each household and the clean water and fresh water and pollution less water. So this is the great challenge. But yes, the government is working. And they are taking water from the ground. So the biggest problem is the groundwater. Groundwater is shrinking day by day in India and even the entire South Asia. So this is the biggest challenge. How can we use the river water as a drinking purposes? So these are the challenge and for the institutional sustainability, we will have to work on the every country. It's to manage and to provide the supply to the grassroots level. And the one more thing is a digital and the technology is important, because whatever technology is available, to fetch the water and to recharge the groundwater. It's very, very limited. So we'll have to work on the technology to catch the rain and recharge the groundwater, so that the water will be available for the future generation. One more thing I wanted to add, that the water is mainly the women's subject everywhere. If you see the drinking water, at household level, mostly women are managing the water. So involvement and capacity building of the women, and in the management of the water supply system is the very, very key area, where we will have to work so that they can understand the how to save the water, how use the water, how maintain the water quality. So this is the one major component. And the last I want to mention about the climate, the impact of the climate change and the environment, is the big issue. Even in India, if you come to India again and see the Ganga water, how it was like 10 years, 20 years before, and now is Ganga is a horrible river. No, I mean the Hindus are considering this is a holy river, but it's not holy. It's a very, very in the bad shape. And same thing is happening with the all rivers, river water. So it's one thing is the climate, impact of the climate, less water, less rain, and the second is more about the human behavior. So how people are behaving with the water, and they are maintaining the water supply and maintaining the rivers. That is also the biggest problem. So for in terms of water bankruptcy, we will have to work around these areas to secure the water security.
Thank you, Vinod. And just to follow up on what you said about equity of access and also gender issues, there's the new UN World Water Development Report 2026 just recently came out and very much looks at those issues for anyone who wants to know more about it. The other thing, though, another report I wanted to mention is the Africa Water Vision 2063. So Africa's got this 2063 agenda, a bit similar to the UN. It's the African Union who brought out this document. It's a comprehensive policy document and also an action plan. Does India have anything like that for water? Does it have a sort of a really long-term plan for water management?
Yes. I mentioned the program of the Prime Minister launched. It's called the Jal Jeevan Mission in Hindi. It's Water Life Mission in English, the Water Life Mission. So they have prepared the long-term vision and the mission to provide every household safe drinking water, and even the target is to do the recharge of the groundwater, maintaining groundwater and recharging and rejuvenation of the ponds, the traditional water sources. So that's the target. Currently, they have prepared the mission and vision document. They are working around that, and they are implementing in some areas, especially in Rajasthan. Rajasthan is the biggest problem during the summer season in terms of the availability of the water supply. In Jaisalmer, Badmer, few districts there, 10 to 15 kilometers women just walking to get the 1 bucket 10-liter water for the drinking purposes. So these are the area where the government of India has prepared the mission document and vision document to provide the tap water connection to each household, to bring the canal water and the river water, surface water, to provide each households. So that in that area, government of India is working, but still the quality is the biggest challenge. Water quality is the biggest challenge. I mean, that's the waterborne diseases yes, it's now less because of the sanitation program and improvement of the sanitation disposal system. But still, we will have to work on it so that we can make a fresh water clean and potable, so that people can drink and survive.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I must say that, coming back to India after 40 years, 2 years ago, I visited again, including Rajasthan. I must say I was shocked by the state of the rivers, just how little water they were carrying. And of course, the less water, the less stream flow there is, the more concentrated is the pollution as well. And very hard to deal with that. But on the other hand, sanitation has improved massively in India, and the waterborne diseases are on the way out. Instead, you have non-communicable diseases. But the other issue, though, I wanted to touch upon is how is the thinking sort of developing on rice agriculture? Because rice is extremely water hungry. Flooded rice fields, the sort of way it's usually grown, but there are other options. There's a lot of some new science and developing varieties of rice that do not need to be constantly flooded. And of course, rice fields, wet rice fields, are a massive contributor of methane and amplifying climate change. So is there any sort of plan to rethink agriculture? It would be difficult to do because rice is synonymous with food in Asia. So it's but is there any sort of plan for rethinking agriculture?
Now, I mean, I will give the example from the Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh, they have prepared a system and to shift the conventional agriculture system to go to the new farming system, where they are developing the new seeds and the new way of pattern of the agriculture that needs less water and without any chemical fertilization and fertilizer. So that system, organic farming, so natural farming and organic farming. So that's also the Andhra Pradesh has initiated. That's coming in Karnataka and some area in Gujarat. I saw. So slowly this momentum, natural farming, moving back to natural farming, and so less water consumption and the less chemical fertilizers use. So in that area, they are developing the new agriculture policy, and the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, that I mean, we are working together. They are working with the Ministry of Agriculture and the Food to develop the natural farming system. So in that way, the movement has started now. So I hope that in the next 5 to 10 years, it will be very popular. And especially we need for the Punjab and Haryana. Punjab and Haryana are the most affected area, where they have used the fertilizers decade and decade because of the green revolution, and now they have spoiled the whole soil. It's all poisonous. So we'll have to move. There is no option. We'll have to move to natural farming and organic farming.
That's right. If you have similar problems in Australia, also, the overuse of fertilizer and there's a depletion of soils that goes hand in hand with it, and heavy plowing and all that, and we, end up with soils that have very much reduced capacity to hold water, and there are all kinds of initiatives now to reintroduce organic material into the soil so that it can actually hold the water.
Yeah.
and which has many benefits. You can use biochar and such. There are many different methods,
Yeah.
but it's a big job ahead of us. Well, anyway, I would like to now turn to Manfred. Manfred, who's at the Potsdam Institute for Climate Change Impacts, and one thing I'd like you to enlighten us about, Manfred, is the mechanics of the relationship between climate change and water scarcity. How exactly does it relate? And how does something like that pan out in a place like Germany or in, Northern Europe, which, there's some of the water-rich countries, one would think. How is that kind of impacting in places like that? Is there an impact, and to what degree? And then if you just could sort of explain that a little.
Yes, well, Thomas, you have shown the maps of the global maps, and if you look there at Germany, it seems to be that we are here at the safe side. I don't think so. And the reason is that already in the past decades, we see that the difference between the rainfall, especially here where I live, between the relatively low rainfall and the evaporation, that the distance goes smaller and smaller in the last decades. And if you prolong this due to climate change into the future, you see that there could be zero water availability for nature and for humans as well. So we have a problem. And the good news, we have noticed that. So we can shift our management from in the past, from drainage of water to preservation of water. And that's what we need. So, well, I was a little bit shocked seeing this report we are talking about on this global side. And I imagine how that would be in the future, even if a 2-degree world, that's really a bad world. But, well, having such a bad news, nobody will hear. So we have to transport something which can help people to act, to preserve, to entering an unliving world in the future. We have a chance. We can do this. And we need best practice examples. Some Eric has mentioned already. And I think knowing the risk which is seen in the report, we have a chance. We can see the windows of opportunity from that, where we can act. Even especially here in Germany, we face that, and we are discussing what to do. I live here close in north of Potsdam, close to one of the finest lakes around Berlin in a nature reservoir. And we see for the last decades the water level going down. And that's typical for many of the lakes, the groundwater-fed lakes here in Brandenburg, which is one of the driest regions in Germany already. And in the future, when the end of the lignite mining ends, then the pumping there will stop, and there the rivers around the Spree, for instance, will fall dry or can fall dry. So we have to discuss what we can do in this situation. And in addition, we in refilling these pits, in addition, now it is discussed to plan AI data centers here around Berlin, which is another problem to water availability then. And so that's what we try to bring into the perspective of water authorities and the policy. So I am involved here in scientific advisory boards as well as in citizens initiatives. And I hope we can enhance the awareness about the problem. And such a report, like from the UNO, can help a lot according to that, to see if we can act here as a best practice example how to behave in water scarcity problems.
Yes, I wanted to comment on the vulnerability of a place like Germany, which is comparatively water rich. Even in a drought, Germany has enough water to make any desert bloom, but the ecosystem in Germany is not, in countries like that, is not really adjusted to have a large reduction in water availability. So it's actually reliant on plentiful water, and a reduction, a relatively small reduction, can have devastating effects.
And it's at the wrong time and
Yeah.
in a wrong well, too much. It's either too low or too much. So that's the problem with it in time scales. And so we have as floods as well as heavy droughts. And the difference in the rainfall patterns regionally and, for instance, in the seasons give difficulties to agriculture and to forestry, for instance. We have severe problems already with our forests and how to rebuild them to resilient structure,
Yeah, a
which
few
takes
years
a long
ago there
time.
was a massive dieback of pine forest because, and it's interesting how it worked. It was just a lack of, there's a heat wave summer and two in a row, I think, and it just meant that there wasn't enough sap for the pine trees to fight the pine beetles that
Yes, and we are
delve
one
into
of
the,
the hotspots for wildfires here.
So yeah, so it's nobody expected that, but there is a vulnerability that doesn't always meet the eye. And of course, as you said, Germany is, a very densely populated country. It's highly industrialized, so there's competition for water from different sectors
Right.
too. And of course, agriculture is in a way vulnerable because it's rain-fed. It's not irrigated generally. So when there is no rain, it just collapses.
It's
Whereas
increasing
you can't just
irrigation
you
now,
can't.
yes.
They're starting to do that, yeah, increasingly, yeah, that's right.
And that's a problem in the global competition now for German farmers, especially here in Brandenburg. We had from the history, we had a lot of drainage systems which are ruined now, and it's difficult to rebuild them to a proper management situation. That's on the way, but it takes time. We have recently evaluated low water management system management rules, and to discuss that with local authorities, how to manage the situation to a better future development for water availability. And I hope
Okay.
that's going on, even under the difficult financial situations we have even now in Germany.
Yeah, Okay. Well, you mentioned also data centers before, and Anna, you've done a bit of work on that, and another of our team members, Professor Barry Gills, just wrote in the chat, the proliferation of massive AI data centers around the globe is incompatible with meeting global climate change goals, as well as posing a very severe threat to water security. Anna, would you like to say a little bit about your insights about data centers?
Yes, it's why I feel like we trade our water for on ChatGPT, from something that probably I don't know if we will be alive to talk with this AI. I'm not saying that AI is very bad, but I know that probably in Sweden, I don't know if Eric is still here. I know they are developing some data center on circular water, and it seems it's working, but globally it's quite a nightmare. Like, I don't know what everyone has the close eyes on data center, and I know that it's very expensive to do on circular economy, this kind of data center. And I think it's not so much, we are not talking so much about the danger of data center in media, on science, on everything. So I think, on my opinion, this is the the worst scenario. Like in the next years, without taking on consideration, I know there are science around the world. There is a lot of potential to have the data center and not use our fresh water, because the data center use the fresh water. Like the water for us, for the agriculture, and etc. So yeah,
Okay.
this is.
I also have a question in Q&A from Barry. What are the prospects for establishing a new global commission to thoroughly investigate the global water crisis and to create recommendations for new global water regulations or institutions for the protection of water resources globally? Basically, what is the state of international diplomacy on water? As far as I know, obviously the UN made a number of efforts to coordinate water policy or to set certain standards. There are quite a number of multilateral agreements on water between nation states, but there are also a lot of conflicts, and I don't know that we have anything approaching a roadmap at a global level. But I don't know, Vinod or Manfred, do you have any insights on that, on global water policy or say European level? How far have we progressed there?
Well, what I mentioned about the windows of opportunity in the UNO report, it was said that it's a global system failure, and because there's a growing gap between human demands on the environment, such as water withdrawals, and the physical regenerative capacity of the Earth, so-called planetary boundaries. That reminds me to the report Limits of Growth of Club of Rome. And we had a seminar this week at PIC where was mentioned the Climate Policy Initiative, which helps governments, businesses, and financial institutions to drive economic growth while addressing climate change. And there was said that we have to bring private money into solving problems locally, best practice examples. This is a part of adaptation to climate change. most of the money, and even especially private money, has gone into problems of climate mitigation, not so much in climate adaptation, where water problems belong to. And so we can bring the awareness on these problems there to get money into to finance best practice advices. And I think that can help a lot if we use the global financial system and economic system to solve the problems instead of only producing problems.
Right, yeah. And this also connects to a question from Zainab Mansarai from the audience, who's from Sierra Leone. And he reminds us that just how long we've been campaigning for climate change action since, Al Gore sadly missed out on the presidency by one vote in the Florida Supreme Court, I believe. How different the world might look now, but we are still, as it is, struggling to get climate mitigation happening, though there is a massive energy transition happening. We have last year, latest International Energy Agency report say that twice the investment in renewables than in fossil fuels. So
Yeah, we see that it can
happening.
work there.
Yeah.
So it can work with water problems as well.
The problem is that at current rates, I think it'll probably be more like 2060 before we approach anything like net zero. Even that's an optimistic estimate. And where do you think we'll be by 2060, Manfred, in terms of climate change impacts and water?
Well, it will turn down many parts of economy, and even the finance sector will notice that something has to be done if there will be not only a water bankruptcy, but an economic global bankruptcy. So I hope that noticing that risk will open a window of opportunity in ongoing climate change. Well, the problem is the time scale. We need too much time to notice problems than to solve them.
And I wanted to ask Vinod again, Vinod, if you can hear me.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
In a place like India, obviously, you have many different priorities to consider in a place like India. And how is the sort of progress there on climate change? And do these water problems actually inspire some more more sober attitude towards energy production? Because India still uses quite a lot of coal too. Yeah, that's what I say. What's the state of play, and also data centers, if you could?
Actually, the energy transition is a big area, and the government of India has opened the new ministry. It's called Renewal and Renewal and Energy Department, so separate department, and so energy transition from the hydro and from thermal to moving towards solar, air, and especially in the rural areas on the composting and mainly with the cow dung, the gas for the cooking purposes, so that we can reduce the dependency on the CNG and the LPG gas. That area, I mean, this new biodigester they have developed, and they are providing to rural areas on the subsidy basis. So people are installing this biodigester and producing the gases and calculating the carbon reduction at the household level. So that the energy transition is the big way, and the government of India has prepared one policy also on the renewable energy and alternate energy, so that we can move forward from thermal and the hydro to the more natural energy. So that's happening in India. The progress is happening, but still there is a lot of effort will have to do, and because of the climate change and the coal and the other natural resources of the energy, the way we are utilizing its like source is again depleting, and the current the war situation in the Middle East has created a big fuel and the energy problem in India. So dependency on the petrol and the diesel. So it's now there is a new policy to develop the more electronic vehicles, so that we can you can move from the traditional to the new renewable energy source. So that's happening in India also. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just like to sort of remark another comment by Barry Gills about crop failures from climate change and lack of water for irrigation. I think from my the last 10 years of research on food security, I think that's really where I have the greatest concerns that the water shortage is going to affect our food supply massively. And there we really need to think that through and develop policies to address that.
Yeah. Yes. Because if you see the situation of the rivers, whether it's the Brahmaputra or the Ganga or Yamuna or Indus or any maybe Narmada or Kaveri in the South India. So all rivers, they are just going, I mean, uh, producing less water because of the climate change situation. So and even the in the during the rainy season, there is a huge problem of the flood, because the what happened of the impact of the climate change, that rain happening for a very smaller period of time. Earlier it was like monsoon period in India was from June to September. Now it's the monsoon is coming very late. It's July, maybe end of July, and just end of August that's finished. So within 1 month the whole uh, 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 rain is happening. So during that period there is a problem of the flood, but the whole water is run off to the ocean, not able to catch the rainwater in the villages and in the ponds, and the dug well, so that we can keep the more water available for the agriculture purposes and the drinking purposes. So this is the again one biggest problem of the impact of the climate change in India, and I think is happening everywhere.
Yeah, it certainly calls for a systemic approach because there's so many stakeholders involved too. I mean, we talk about the importance of soil condition for water absorption, preventing floods, absorbing, those, heavy rains, the loss of wetlands. So it's the conservation issues, things about soil repair, yeah, after the excesses of the Green Revolution. There are, you know, so farmers are involved. You have, of course, drinking water issues, sanitation issues. It's a very complex problem, and different industries, new industries, but also established industries like power stations, where they coal or nuclear also require masses of water. So it's a very complicated issue because water touches on all aspects of life. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for your contribution. Eric had to leave a bit earlier. He let us know in advance because he had another engagement. So thank you very much for your contribution. And yeah, we will, we hope we can have you around at another occasion at Extra.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Anna.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.